Okay, good evening, everyone. So many of you, if you're attending from the Ladder Back Down WhatsApp community, will know my name, or if you've seen the flyer to this session tonight, will know my name anyway. So I'm Ibukun Emmanuel Adebayo, the founder of the Ladder Back Down. The Ladder Back Down was founded in January 2020, and we'll be talking about the why later on in this session today. But it was founded as a global movement to try to inspire my fellow Black humans to look back, remember to look back to where we were coming from, and to try and carve an easier path for those coming behind us, to start raising one another rather than tripping up one another, to start caring for one another like other races do. This session tonight is just to implore us. It's not even to inspire us. It's not even to force us, but it's to implore us, to plead with us to not quit. As in, please don't quit. Regardless of what you're going through tonight, don't quit. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on life, because you're not a failure due to the circumstance that you may be facing today. You're not a failure, and you haven't failed until you stop trying to succeed. So the fact that you're facing a trial today simply means that you're a human being, alive. Every single human being that you and I may meet is actually going through one test or the other. Billionaires are facing one test or the other today, and yet they don't view themselves as failures. The fact that we are not billionaires, you and I are not billionaires, doesn't mean that we're a failure, because we're facing a test in life. So please don't quit, because you're not a failure. Some of us may have been to schools abroad in Africa, in Nigeria. I got taken to a Nigerian primary school and then a secondary school when I was much younger. And in those schools, if one failed exams at the end of a year, then one may have been required or asked to repeat the year. Some students repeated a year or two, and yet they still ended up graduating from that school. If they'd given up on themselves and on their education when they failed once or when they failed the second time, only then could they have said in the future that they had failed. But the fact is that most people went on to graduate eventually from that school, from that primary school, from that secondary school. So please don't quit. Don't give up on yourself, because you're not a failure. Let's take a look at what we're going to discuss tonight. We're going to take a look at my post last year on WhatsApp. The post was part of an initiative by an organization, and I've forgotten the name of the organization, but they asked authors on LinkedIn to write on the International Day of the Girl Child, I think it was, or the International Day of the Child or something. And I decided to write or share my story on This Little Girl Is Me. But tonight I've changed that to This Little Girl Was Me. So we'll be talking about or sharing exactly what I wrote then about what I was like as a little girl or a young girl. We're also going to talk about negating negative words or turning negative words around, because I know that many of us here listening to me tonight may have heard negative words said to us when we were young that have followed us throughout our lives, where we've now believed those words about ourselves, where we've been told, because we may have failed a year, that you're a failure, and we've believed that, we've absorbed that. We'll be talking about how we can turn those negative words around. We'll also be talking about, very briefly, developing emotional intelligence to recover. We'll be talking about carving our own path and carving the path for others so that they don't have to go through the exact same things that we've been through. We don't say, because I went through that, because things were difficult for me, they have to be difficult for others coming behind me. So we'll be discussing that. We'll also be discussing why we need to become lifelong learners and starting anew at 40, 50, 60, starting new careers, starting a new relationship, if that's what you want to do, starting a new anything that we lay our hands upon to do. We'll also be talking about overcoming that fear. I understand that life may be fearful at times. Life may be scary, dare I say, at times. When we've been striving for that job, striving for that companionship, striving for many things that seem out of reach. And yet we can overcome that fear. How do we then keep that momentum? How do we keep things moving, including during those down times when nothing seems to be working, when we seem to be applying for one job after the other and not getting anything? I'll be asking us the question, should I ever quit? Might there be a time when I actually need to say, okay, I need to quit. I need to give up. I give up on this. And then we'll be re-emphasizing the fact that you are not a failure. You're not a failure. That one word needs to remain with you for the rest of your life. From today, keep telling yourself, keep looking yourself in the mirror, in the eye, and saying to yourself each morning, I'm not a failure. Regardless, I am not a failure. Because you're not. That's why, because you're simply not. Then we'll take a look at the ladder back down and how it started, how it's going, and where we're going to. And then we'll just end with questions and a reminder to ourselves once again that none of us here is a failure, regardless of whether we feel we're a success or not. We're not a failure. So let's take a look at This Little Girl Was Me. The post is titled, This Little Girl Is Me, but I've now, for the purpose of tonight, changed it to This Little Girl Is Me, or Was Me rather. So I'm going to take us to, I'm going to change the screen share, just try and get up a new share on LinkedIn, where I posted that article. So before I change the share, let's just go to here and I will bring it up again. Okay. So any questions, kindly post these in the group chat window in the meantime. And so I'll then just pick that up. I'll pick that up from the chat window as we go along. So I can take questions as we go along, and I'll take questions during any break as well. Okay. So let me just go and bring up this share. Going through my posts and I will bring it up. So any questions so far? Questions in the chat window? Okay, what I'm doing here now, I actually had this up previously. And then, I don't know when that closed, but let's just change to that window now. Okay. Let me just try and change my share and just see if you can see what I can, whether we can see it large enough. Okay. Okay, can we see my screen, please? Can we actually read this post, or is it too small for us? What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and enlarge it. So can we see this? If we can put a thumbs up in the chat window, please, if we can read what I'm sharing here. This little girl is me. Let me just take a look in the chat window. It's perfect. Thank you so much, Prince. Okay. So what I said here is that this little girl is me, that I was born in London to a strong female leader who worked 3 jobs, including in the civil service, and a dad who was the first Black bank manager at Lloyds Bank. This girl child was painfully shy. So I was actually born really shy. I was very shy when I was young and when I was growing up. I didn't talk to anyone. I just sat in a room, lived with, just learning difficulties. So I couldn't really read. I didn't understand a thing about academics. I was strong in my secondary school. When I got to secondary school, I finally started understanding English language and English literature. But everything else, I used to score 3%, 5%, 7%, but never double figures. And I struggled to learn. And my nicknames then were Dunce, Dundee United, Dullard, rather than the new names of neurodiverse. And then I lived in Nigeria, was taken to Nigeria for 9 years before returning to London, where my first job upon returning to London, having been taken away as a primary school student, my first job was a cleaner for an insurance firm in Oxford Street. So I used to go to Oxford Street to an early morning job, as they used to call it then, on the number 12 bus. And I was expecting my first child at the time. So I used to go and sleep in the toilets to take a nap. And then they made me a full-time cleaner. So I would go for the early morning job and then I would go full-time cleaner. Eventually, I then met and married my amazing husband of today. And one of the first things that I'd like to say to us is that if you want to get that daily dose of inspiration, have a friend or a mentor or a companion or a partner who tells you every day when you don't feel like you're a success, who tells you every day that you are a success, that you should keep going. A mentor, a friend, a partner, a colleague. It's good to have someone like that in our lives. Now, this little girl never initially wanted to be a leader out of fear of having to lay people off. But leadership roles came this little girl's way. And due to that fear of having to lay people off, whilst recognizing that that was one of the unfortunate skills required in a role of leadership, that is to be able to make people redundant, and in some instances, lay people off if they weren't performing well. However, this girl, who's now a woman, has excelled in leadership roles since then, always blending integrity with kindness and leading by example, including when having to lay someone off. This once very shy girl has addressed global leaders at The Hague, at the UK Excel Centre and the World Trade Center in Vancouver. Today, this little girl, who's now become a woman, believes she cannot fail at anything. She can do anything. And touched the music keyboard for the first time ever in April 2020 with no lessons. And within 2 months had recorded 500 free devotionals and ringtones at night on tambourine.com. As long as it's ethical, she can and she will do it. And so will you. As long as it's ethical, I can assure you that if you try, you will do it. And we haven't started going into the slides yet. We're just on slide 1. As long as it's ethical, you can do it and you will do it. Because as I just noted there, for the first time in my life in April 2020, following the loss of my father, I lay my hands on a keyboard, on an old keyboard of one of my sons. And I wanted to record a song that I had sang, but I couldn't record my voice at the time. So I just touched the keyboard and I played the song. Once I'd recorded that song, I then went on the keyboard and I just started playing my dad's favorite hymns and ended up over 2 months recording over 500 free devotionals and ringtones on tambourine.com. So if I can do that, if I could do that, as someone who struggled to learn and still struggles to learn, then so can you. I've written there that in that month that this woman, this little girl, has faced many challenges, yet continues to strive to bounce back better and not bitter. And we'll talk about all of this when we go through the slides. Looking back and mentoring many humans, tries to recover after each failure and continues to work and study and pray towards an awesome workplace. Now let's actually go back. But before we go back to the slides, let's just say that this applies to every single person here tonight. I truly hope my story can encourage the girl child and anyone here listening to me tonight, struggling with self-doubts, to believe that irrespective of your race, don't regret your race, irrespective of your religion, don't regret your adopted religion, irrespective of your gender, irrespective of your sexuality. Yes, I said that, sexuality. Irrespective of your grades that you achieved when you were growing up, or indeed your grades that you may be achieving now. Nothing, absolutely nothing can stop you and I from achieving our purpose until we give up. I know it's hard, but please don't give up and don't stop believing that you will achieve. Keep it moving. Stay encouraged, keep it moving. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your dream. Don't give up on your dream to transition to a new role that you've never done before. Even if others around you that have been in that industry for years are not currently in a role, there is a role out there for you. There's definitely a role out there for you. Through the ladder back down, I've been privileged to mentor and talk to a lot of people that ring up for this half-an-hour speed mentoring session. And many are getting jobs. Others are asking about how they can get a job, but there are still many that are actually getting jobs, despite difficult circumstances, despite in some instances being new to an industry. So there's absolutely no reason why you should give up on your dream. As long as it's ethical, you can and will do it. You can and will do it. You can and will achieve it as long as you don't give up. So do not give up. How do we negate negative words? How do we get rid of negative words? How do we forget negative words? What is on your playlist? What are you listening to today? What do you spend your time listening to, absorbing, to counteract or counter those negative words that you heard growing up? Who do you listen to? Let's see in the chat window, please, who you listen to. Let's read in the chat window who you listen to. What words you listen to. Let's hear, who's your favorite person that you listen to? Okay, someone said TD Jakes. Okay, but who do we listen to? Who else do we listen to? Who else do we listen to? And it's good to be tired. It's good to be tired of actually struggling, because sometimes when we get to that point of being tired, we suddenly find ourselves gaining strength. Okay, we've got different people. I like what someone said here. Someone said, I listen to myself. That's brilliant, because sometimes you won't hear anyone else speaking good words to you personally. Sometimes it's going to be up to you personally to talk to yourself. So that is amazing. The power to be able to look yourself in the eye, in your mirror, and tell yourself, you know what? You will succeed. Do not give up. I am not a failure. You are not a failure. Telling yourself that in the mirror. That is power. That is power. When you're able to say that to yourself rather than wait for someone else to say it to you. It's great to have these motivational speakers. It's great to have people talk to you. It's great to have cheerleaders. That's so important. However, you still need to retain that ability to speak to yourself, to remind yourself when you're alone in bed at night and there's no one to talk to you. You need to be able to tell yourself, you know what? I am not a failure. To counter all those words over the years when you were growing up, where you weren't in a good job, where you weren't excelling in school, where you didn't go to a grammar school. I didn't go to a grammar school. I wouldn't ever have passed a grammar school exam. If I'd stayed here for my secondary school, I definitely wouldn't have passed the 11+ exam. Thank you, Gwen, for that. You said, I think it's a big risk to have someone else motivate you. When they are gone, I fear I will be lost, but I trust my belief in myself. Yes, it's great to have that self-belief. It's great to be able to motivate oneself, but no human is an island. And sometimes we will go through things where we need someone else. So we need to balance that ability to motivate ourselves with having someone else that believes in us as well. Because if I'm going through a valley or I'm sick or something, I may not have the energy. Even if I have the will, I may not have the energy to motivate myself. Then I do definitely need someone else to motivate me, to keep telling me, you know what, you're going to recover. You know what, you're going to get there. So at least one person, at least one cheerleader, but it's vital that we have also that inner motivation. We're able to listen to our inner voice. So who do we listen to? When do we listen to that personal inner voice? Is it after we've heard everyone else's negative speech over our lives that we then look ourselves in the eye in the evening, weary and tired of all those negative words? Or are we constantly listening out for positivity around us? Are we constantly listening to our cheerleaders, listening to all those motivational speakers that we've mentioned? Do we wait until we're tired, until we've had enough, until we're weary, before we then turn on the telly or turn on the, I was going to say radio there, but I don't think anyone's got a radio anymore in this day and age. But before we turn on our playlist to hear the voice of a motivational speaker, when, what time of the day? Okay, someone is admitting to having a radio here. Thank you for that. So I'm not alone. Where do we seek to negate those negative words? It's great to, if you belong to a religious group, it's great to be able to go there to listen to motivational words. But when the doors of your group is closed, when the doors are closed, or when the door to that building is shut, where do you go? The good thing about technology nowadays is that you can listen to motivational talks or speeches all day long on your phone, anywhere you go. What matters the most is that we unhear those negative words. If you're hearing negative words to you in the home, you need to change that. You need to balance that. You need to counteract those negative words. If you're hearing negative words to you in a workplace, you need to switch jobs. And I know that it's hard to switch a job when there's a bear market. However, as I said on Friday, protect your mental health, because there's no value in having people or a person talk you down 24/7, where all you're hearing is you are no good. You cannot do this. You can't even do this. You're not clever. You're not good enough. You're not confident. You're overconfident. You're too bossy. You're too loud. You're too this. Negate those negative words. Again, what do you listen to? Do you listen to constructive criticism along with the praise? Because I like what was mentioned earlier about balance. I believe I read in the chat there about balance. Do we also listen to constructive criticism? Constructive criticism designed to build us up rather than tear us down. So what is our play-listen like today? Why do we need to negate those negative words? Can someone just type, or can anyone type in the chat window? Why do we need to negate those negative words? Why do we need to counteract them? Why do we need to counteract? Yet they're toxic. Why are they toxic? Words hurt. They're limiting beliefs. They injure the brain because they can erode our self-confidence. Absolutely. Yes, in most cases, those negative words are simply untrue. And things are created from words. Yes, Dr. Esther, that is absolutely true. Things are created from words. Words can cause harm. Words can cause harm. They blur our focus. Thank you, Samuel. Yep, we need to be able to push ourselves beyond our imagination, and they will bring us down if we let them. If we let them, they cause inflammation, they cause toxicity, they cause illnesses. When says they affect my spirit, they kill morale if we let them. But everything that we've said about negativity and negative words is simply true. They affect productivity. They don't do us any benefit. If I know that somebody's about to speak negative words to me on the phone, for example, I'll let them leave a voice message. And then as soon as I play back their voice message, if I think, okay, that I don't really need to hear this, not that I don't want to hear, but I don't need to hear this. If I know that they're going to say words to sap my energy, as Stella has said here, or depress me, then I simply don't listen to the rest. As soon as I start hearing a raised voice on my voicemail, there's absolutely no way that I'm going to finish listening to that message. I'll simply just erase it because I don't need negativity around me. If someone's speaking negative words, even about a colleague in the workplace, you can safely just remove yourself from that environment and go and make a cup of tea. Go and make a cup of tea. You don't need to hear negative words about yourself or about anyone else. I can't work in negative environments. And we don't bear words, we don't carry negative words about anyone that we hear. If someone comes to me and said something negative about someone else, I simply say, or ask the question, have you told them how you feel about them? Or would you like me to tell them how you feel about them so that they know that I don't have the time to be absorbing negative words about anyone? I don't have the time or energy to do that. Unless we're able to encourage and build ourselves with words that are spoken to us or about us, don't listen to those words. Don't listen to those words. What are the causes of a fear of trying again? Or the fear of success, the fear of succeeding? Because in trying again, we end up succeeding in our goals. But what are the causes of the fear of trying again? I've heard one or two people say to me, at least two people say to me that where I've been mentoring them and coaching them, applying for jobs, and at some point they say, you know what, I'm just going to give up because I can't stand all these rejection letters. Or some people that have left a job out of hurt, and then they've now said, I don't want to ever go back into the workplace again. I'd rather suffer than go back into the workplace again and face what I faced in that previous role. We only fear trying again, or success really, due to absorbed words, where those words of negativity have stuck with us. They've stuck with us, and so we fear trying again. Where someone said, you can't do this, you can't ever pass that exam, you can't ever graduate, and we've absorbed those words and agreed that we can't succeed, that we can't try, that we can't excel. Sibling rivalry, where our parents have told us your brother is more intelligent than you, or your sister is more intelligent than you. Your brother or sister got a first-class honors degree, and you didn't even get you didn't finish your secondary school. Your academic performance, as I said, I used to fail every single exam except for English language and English literature. Everything else would be a single figure, and I just could not work out why I couldn't learn. Till date, it's a struggle for me to learn. Till date. So I adopt various methods in terms of learning. If I want to actually sit an exam nowadays, I'll physically sit there and record a book on tape myself. I'll read the book onto a tape rather than buy an audio book, I'll read it and record it and play it to myself over and over again and get on with the labs, listening to that book over and over again until I comprehend with my practical experience, labs and things like that. Learning doesn't come naturally or easily to me. So academic performance can cause us to fear. Sometimes we have a complex, we develop a complex because we see someone who appears to be confident, who appears to have these qualifications, who appears to have these titles and whatever. We feel I can never be like that person. And so I'm not even going to try. But we should never try to be like another person. We should just aim to be the best version of ourselves ever, without feeling inferior to anybody, without feeling inferior to any single human being on this planet, because you're not. Regardless of your accent, regardless of your job title, regardless of the number of houses you have, regardless of the number of bedrooms you have in your house, you can't sleep in more than one room at the same time. Indeed, you can't sleep in more than one bed at the same time. And worst of all, you can't even sleep in that one bed beyond the width and the length of your body. So there's absolutely no need to feel inferior to anybody, to any human being on this planet. Sometimes unemployment makes us feel as if we're not going to try again to do anything else. We're not going to write that book. We're not going to do anything else with our other gifts and talents simply because we don't have a day job. I won't achieve my full potential until I have a day job, a 9-to-5 job. Fear of trying again, toxic workplaces. I've talked about that. Don't work in a toxic workplace because it will sap one's energy. Domestic violence, that can cause the fear of trying again. And I would say now that domestic violence can be from a man to a woman or from a woman to a man, where words that are spoken stick with one of the parties and then they fear to try again in another relationship. Bullying, rejection, where we have these words, again, the power of words. We hear those words. You're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too this, you're too that. No, you are more than enough. You are just right. You are just right. You're absolutely perfect. You're absolutely perfect. The fact that one human has rejected you doesn't mean that you are not perfect. Doesn't mean that you are not good. Does not mean that you're a failure. So do not tell yourself that you're a failure. Don't tell yourself that you're a failure. Because you have not passed your probation in a workplace, you now think, okay, I'm never going to try again because I didn't make my probation there. That means I'm a failure. That is not true. It's not right. It's not true and it's not right. The fact that you didn't pass your probation in one role doesn't mean that you wouldn't pass your probation in the next role. The fact that you've received 50 rejection letters doesn't mean that you are not good enough to receive a 51st acceptance letter. So don't give up. Don't give up. I'm not sure how many people have passed their driving tests here and how many attempts it took you for you to pass. I took many tests before I eventually passed. But today, nobody's turned around to ask me, when did you pass your driving lesson? I've been driving for many years on the roads, and the only people that actually say you need to go back and take your driving tests again and driving lessons is one or two actually of my cheeky sons. But nobody asks, thank you. Someone else is saying, oh, wow. Someone is saying I had 9 attempts. Someone's saying they had 5 attempts. So I think I had something in between those numbers, but nobody asks you. Nobody asks any of us here, what age did we start walking or talking? So when you get that job, if you persist, nobody's going to ask you how many job applications you'd put in before you got that job. And everybody working in that workplace, including those recruiters that are interviewing you, they were once applicants as well. So don't fear them. Don't fear trying and trying and trying until you get a yes. Don't fear the no's that you receive along the way to your yes. I can see Olabisi says that she started working from her mother's womb. I know the feeling. But don't fear the no's along the way to your yes. There will be no's, but one day somebody is going to actually say, yes, it's you that we want to join us here. And it will be the right place, the right company. Why do we need to carve a path for our own selves? Because sometimes everyone that we're looking up to help us to carve that path is too busy trying to carve a path for themselves. If they're too busy, then you need to carve a path for yourself where you decide that, you know what? Yes, I've had negative words spoken to me. Yes, things haven't worked in the past, but today's a new day. It's a new dawn. I'm going to take control of my own life. I often hear some people say, you know what, my parents were so negative towards me, they were so cruel that I never made it in life. I never ended up succeeding in life because of what they said to me. But at some point, we can actually take control of our lives. When we leave our parents' care, we can, in some cases, we may need counseling. We may need some support to help us to get over the hurt and the rejection. However, we can carve a path for ourselves and for others as well. So when we go through trauma, a traumatic childhood, a traumatic relationship, sometimes I believe the purpose of that is so that when we get older, when we get out of that relationship or out of that traumatic workplace in some cases, that we can then empower others so that they don't end up going through the same trauma as we've been through. So we can carve our own path rather than allow ourselves to dwell in that toxicity, in the trauma of that previous pain, that previous hurt. Olabisi said, quite rightly, we can rebirth ourselves. We can actually go to therapy to repair ourselves from trauma. There's no shame in therapy. I need to say that loud and clear once more. There is absolutely no shame in therapy, in going for counseling. Don't be ashamed to seek help when you need help. And I'm not saying if, I'm saying when you need help for emotional trauma, don't be scared to seek help. Because if there's anyone here who's around my age, or I don't even know what things are like now, but I know that with my children, that I make sure that I ask them how they're doing, how they're feeling, how they are. However, when I was growing up in our parents' age, they used to believe in ensuring that you had an education, that everyone should be a doctor or a lawyer. They used to also believe that you needed to find a religion. So they were taking care of one's spiritual well-being, one's future profession, but there was no thought or very little thought put into the need for anyone's emotional well-being. But everyone has emotional needs. And that's why I'm saying that there's no shame in seeking support for trauma, for a traumatic upbringing, for a traumatic or toxic workplace. Once you've left the place, there's no shame in that. So that when you come out of that therapy, you can resume trying to carve a path for yourself, trying to continue towards your purpose. Because we were all created for a purpose. I don't believe that I was born to just come and, come to this earth, pass through, and eventually pass away. So seek therapy if you need to heal from that trauma, and then start carving a path for yourself. And if able to, for others. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence, self-awareness, resilience, and more, but I'm only going to talk about self-awareness and resilience. Self-awareness, I discussed this in the WhatsApp group community yesterday, and self-awareness to me is simply appreciating that we are just all dust and oxygen. which is why there's no need to feel inferior to anyone. There's no need to talk about anyone. There's no need to do anything other than to simply take this journey through life as a journey indeed. A journey where we hit obstacles, we hit road bumps, we may have to take detours, there may be diversions, but we eventually get to that destination. So in 2015, I coined this phrase, ego screams, don't you know who I am? It's ego that yells and shouts, don't you know who I am? But self-awareness whispers, dust and oxygen. Whenever I hear someone act in a way that suggests that they're acting that way simply because they're titled, they're privileged, they're educated or whatever, I just think, you know, we're all just dust and oxygen. We're all just dust and oxygen. That billionaire that you see is simply dust and oxygen. That person on the street that you see begging for money is dust and oxygen, equal. So that is self-awareness to me. Being self-aware means that we don't feel inferior to anyone. We don't feel that if an organization has rejected us or someone has rejected us, that we're more or less than dust and oxygen, and that they are more than dust and oxygen. That person that has rejected you is dust and oxygen. No more, no less. What is resilience? As we develop our emotional intelligence, we increase our self-awareness and also our resilience. Resilience helps us to see the woods from the trees, helps us to recognize that, again, when we go through school, we spend a year learning and having fun. And then at the end of the year, we do a test. We face a challenge. And then we progress to the next year. Now, when we progress to the next year, we don't totally forget all the lessons that we learned in the previous year. We take some lessons along with us and we discard some. Then we get to year 10 and we actually get to choose specific subjects. And then we then drop some lessons that we had from year 7 to year 9, or whatever the year system is, the academic years are in this country. So resilience, emotional intelligence enables us to see that, okay, that we may actually be going through a test phase, but this test will pass and we'll move to the next year, to the next level. And we'll keep learning, we'll keep studying, we'll keep learning, we'll keep trying to understand what this test is about so that we pass it and then we move on. Being resilient doesn't mean that we don't take time out to refresh. In our academic years, again, we have timeouts, we have recess, we have holidays. So no one's talking about just plowing on and just that you keep on struggling without taking time out to rest. But in those times that you take out, keep learning. Keep trying to figure things out. Don't give up. Don't say, because I'm struggling with this subject, I'm going to quit on something that I know is absolutely my purpose. Take time out. Learn lessons from each incident, each test, each challenge. When we go through a test or challenge again, it's for us to learn lessons to see us through our next test, or for us to learn lessons to help someone else through their test when they face a similar test to ours. Resilience. We also mature through those tests. We get to understand our purpose. If all of us were here today saying how wonderful life is, that each time we've applied for a job, we've just got the job straight away, and we've never faced a single test in our life, we wouldn't need to be here. Tests bring maturity. Challenges produce maturity. We grow wiser through those. We understand the sort of relationships we want to actually engage in going forward, in the workplace, in our private lives. Let those tests actually enable growth in our lives, maturity. And when we bounce back stronger. We bounce back stronger. If you've been laid off from a job, look for something that you can do with your hands. You have got talents and gifts. Sometimes untapped talent, sometimes gifts that we allow to remain dormant until we're pushed and forced into actually using those gifts. Don't give up, because nobody was born to fail. You were born for a purpose. You were born for a purpose. And even if you're not working, your character and the way that you're actually handling the fact that you're not working today is influencing someone else's life. Someone else is watching you to see how you're handling this period. Are you learning? Are you studying through it all? Are you sitting there depressed, refusing to seek help or counsel? You are influencing someone every single day of your adult life, except when you're sleeping. So don't view that you are a failure just because you're not working. Because the way you're handling this season, the way you are handling this test is being observed by someone that looks up to you. So do not give up. And when you bounce back, make sure you bounce back strong. Make sure you bounce back strong. But we can only bounce back strong if during that time of that test, we've empowered ourselves with words of positivity. We've surrounded ourselves with people that have been able to inspire and motivate us at times when we haven't been able to motivate ourselves. That's what will cause us to bounce back stronger. If we've invested time in studying, rather than allowing ourselves to refuse to be comforted, to refuse to be inspired, we've spent time engaging in sitting there, just wondering what we're going to do, rather than seeking help and seeking advice and seeking counsel on what to do. Resilience doesn't mean that we're going full steam ahead at 100 miles per hour. It doesn't mean that we pretend that we're not affected by anything that goes on in our life, anything untoward that goes on in our lives. That is not what resilience is, being the strongest man or woman in the room. It's about understanding what we need to do during those lean times. And when we finally get back on the horse, how we behave towards others that are still in that position that we're in today. When we pass our driving test, the grace we show to those learner drivers on the road. How gracious are we towards them? For those of us who took our tests multiple times, are you empathetic when you see a learner driver on the road that is struggling to change gears? Do you beep your horn furiously at them? Get out of my way, forgetting that you were once in those shoes. How do we start anew at 40, 50, 60? So I went to actually check these people out, these names out. Can anyone write in the chat window, please, without checking on Google, what age, or ages rather, do we think these individuals were when they sat there, when they took their degree, when they went to uni to get their degree? Do we know what ages these people were? Okay. 50s. Okay, yeah. So I'm happy to take 50s, 55 to 60. Okay, what age? Or anyone else, please? Without checking on Google. There's no prize for this anyway. So what age do we think these people were when they were taking their, when they sat their first degrees? Okay, anyone else want to type in? We've got 50s, we've got 55 to 60. Okay, let me just say what their ages were. So Leo Plus was 99. Leo Plus was 99. And then I think the next two were 98. And then we had maybe a 97-year-old. And then the last two basically were 96. So they decided to go and do what they'd given up on previously in their 90s. And we're here, I don't think there's any 90-year-old or 80-year-old or 60-year-old here on this workshop. Maybe one or two 60-year-olds, but I'm not in my 60s at all. So we can go and actually check on these names once we finish this workshop. But you and I are young No, you can't give up at 42 years. And I won't say your name out on the recording, but you definitely can't give up at 42 years. Definitely not. And I'd appreciate, please, if you please give me a, if you go onto the Ladder Back Down's mentorship page, you can actually book a half an hour speed mentorship session with me, please. The person that's written that I'm giving up at 42 years, it's all free. All of the Ladder Back Down services are free. So kindly book a session with me, please. Let's just talk through your options, but you're definitely not going to give up after tonight, at least at 42 years. Because if you live till the age of 99 or 100, then you would have spent half of your life, literally over half of your life, 58 years of your life doing nothing because you gave up. So you're not giving up at 42 years. I have found that quite a lot of 50-something-year-olds, 40-something-year-olds have been changing careers, especially after COVID. And when I say changing careers, I mean changing careers into IT-related roles. So yes, we do have a lot of work to do. Yes, I know quite a few people have actually messaged me and said that they've just had to leave because they're in tears. But you don't need to cry. You don't need to cry. You just need to recognize that, you know what, I am going to make it. I am not a failure. Yes, Olabisi, I definitely take you up on your offer about helping to support people and push people. When we say pushing people forward, I don't like to use the word pushing though, because when you push someone, what you're doing is that the word pushing suggests that you're trying to move something that is offering resistance. So offering guidance and steering people, working with mentees for them to tell you where they want to get to, and then offering steer and guidance, but letting them do the self-pushing, because we can't push anyone. But yes, someone's just said that I am not a failure. Yes, you're not a failure. You're not. You may want to capitalize the not, because you're not. You're not a failure. As long as you are alive and breathing, you're not a failure. You're not a failure. You may have failed at things. I have failed at things. I failed exams. I've been failed, F-E-L-L-E-D, in my career many a time. I've had to start many times over. At times where it's almost seemed impossible to get back on the career ladder. But I've just kept going. I've just kept going. I've just had to keep going. I've just had to keep going. And that's why I'm trying to say to each and every one of us here, keep going. Please keep going. Starting again. How do we start again? Where do we start from? First place is forgiveness. If your parents have spoken words of neglect or words of rejection into you, because they're the first people that you actually meet in your life and that they nurture you and everything, if they've spoken those words into you, forgive them. Because everyone is human. And there's not a single human being that was created without weaknesses. So it starts from that point of forgiveness. It starts from forgiveness. Because if we don't forgive them, we end up carrying about hurt that is taking up space in our minds that could be occupied by something else. That space could be occupied by ideas to start a business or an enterprise. Yet we're walking around with bundles of unforgiveness in our hearts. And I'm not preaching here. I'm just telling us what I had to do many years ago. Like, okay, if I keep carrying this around in my heart, there's no space. If you have a cupboard or a wardrobe at home filled with clothes, you can't keep buying clothes because there'd be no space to put those clothes in. So you have to empty that wardrobe. And then you create space. Same as our hearts and our minds. If we're walking around filled with hurt, may not be our parents, maybe work colleagues or managers that have set out to hurt us. Regardless of that, we need to let go of that hurt. Again, therapy may help, counseling may help. But we can't say, okay, that I'm 45, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm 80, I'm 90. And the reason I didn't succeed in life is because my parents, when I was 5, said some negative words to me that impacted upon me for my whole life. Yes, I understand that words can kill the spirit. I definitely understand that. I definitely understand that words can literally scar one for life. However, at some point, we can reach a decision to seek help. To seek help. To move on from those words. And it starts with forgiveness. And even if we can't forgive that person, we still need to do something to make progress in our own lives. I often say to people that with our parents, even though we aim to not make the same mistakes as them, we will make mistakes of our own, with our own children. We will make our own mistakes. And that's why it's so important to try, whether through counseling or whatever, to forgive them and progress in our own lives and make sure we don't repeat their mistakes. It's the same as if you've worked in a toxic workplace with a toxic leader. Make sure you learn from that leader. What do you need to learn? How to not to lead a team. How to not lead a team. How to not treat people. You can learn from the cruelest of humans. And you can learn from the kindest of humans. How to be kind or how not to be cruel. So let go and dust yourself off after rejection. Don't pick up the phone if you know that somebody's going to speak. They're used to speaking negative words to you. Don't pick up the phone. Let them leave a voicemail. As soon as you pick up your phone, you hear, hey, you just delete the voicemail. If it's something important or positive, then they will ring you back. Or they'll send you a message. Didn't you get my message? So don't pick up the phone to your doubters. Surround yourself with cheerleaders and mentors and honest people that will tell you when you're doing well and when you're steering off course. When you're doing well and when you're steering off course. Don't just surround yourself with yes people who are scared to call you and caution you. Hey, you're about to trip up there. Change course. And if you apply for a role and you attend an interview and they say no, don't take it personally. Believe that there is something better, as difficult as that might be. Believe there is something better out there for you. Believe that there is something better out there for you. And always remind yourself of previous comebacks, of previous bounce backs, where you've bounced back. Previous comebacks or bounce backs where you've previously been through a test and you have bounced back. A challenge where you've bounced back. Don't forget that. Oh, I faced a challenge so strong at one point, and this is how I felt, but I eventually recovered. So why won't I recover from this test now? Remind yourself of other people's recovery as well. I was reading towards this session, I was reading there's a musician in Nigeria called Yinka Ayefele, and I was reading about his, well, I was actually watching on YouTube about his accident. And he said, I don't like talking about the accident. He's in a wheelchair. So for those of us who don't know him, he's a Nigerian musician who's an international, celebrity now. And he said he had the accident many years ago and he ended up in a wheelchair. I said, I don't like talking about it, but then he gave a brief description of the accident. And then he said, but that is what has made me an international superstar today. So he said that he was grateful for where he is today. Now, he's in a wheelchair, and it was after he became paralyzed that he actually started singing. So even if you don't have any success stories of yourself to tell, of where you've bounced back previously, think of people like him. Remind yourself of your previous comebacks where you've recovered against all odds, or of other people's comebacks. But don't tell yourself you're a failure. Remain a lifelong learner. Even through that period of leanness where you're struggling to get that job, remain a lifelong learner. Continue to develop your character. Continue to develop yourself personally. Continue to study. Continue to read. Continue to watch videos on subjects that interest you to boost your preparedness for where your next destination is, for where you want to get to. Don't wait until you get there before you start studying or preparing towards that place. Don't say, all I can do is search for a job. If you want to be a BA, keep learning and learning and learning towards being a BA. Don't wait until you've had that interview, you've got the job, and then you now suddenly start trying to learn. Develop your character, perseverance, persistence, determination, hope. Retain that hope for each role that you apply for. Keep saying, this is the job. I know I've sent out 50 CVs, but this 51st is the job. And if it's not the job, then you say this 52nd is the job. Cheer yourself on. If you're a leader, if you're aspiring for a leadership role, continue to develop yourself. Read up on leadership material. For those of us in the community, in the Ladder Back Down community, I often ask, well, we do the weekend interview questions. It's just so that we can keep seeing our potential. What book would you like to write, or what book have you written? And whilst I ask those questions, I don't finish off the questions, I think, well, what is stopping you from writing that book currently? What are your strengths and weaknesses? When I've asked that question in the past, the next question I should really be asking is, so what are you doing to address those? Because these are the sort of questions that were asked at interview. And even if they're not, they also play a part in our personal character development. We need to be committed to lifelong learning so that even when we're not working, when we retire, we can still take up offers of lecturing or of tutoring as a volunteer. But be a lifelong learner, because if we don't use our brains, we lose our brains. There's nothing to stop us from learning nowadays. Years ago, it used to be there's no textbooks, there's no money, there's no this, but with the internet age, there's a wealth of resources available to inform us. Now let's talk about the ladder back down. And I'm going to talk about the start, why I started the ladder back down, where we are today, and my hope for the future with the ladder back down. So I've asked the question, did the ladder back down start on the day of registration at Companies House on the 6th of January 2020, or did it start in July 2013? And my answer to that is that the idea was birthed in July 2013, following an experience with a fellow Black human in a workplace. I sat on the pavement that day in Aldgate, and I thought to myself, I don't want to actually live anymore. That I don't know why someone that I respect and I've always shown respect to would treat me in the manner that I'd been treated at the time. When I say the idea was birthed, what was the idea? The idea was to try and find a way to inspire Black people to simply look after one another and to treat each other the way we want to be treated by other races. Because I simply believe that There's no better help than self-help. And if I don't respect myself, then I can't expect another human to respect me. If we don't respect ourselves as a Black race, it's difficult to see how we can expect other races to respect us as well. So the idea was birthed in 2013. In January 2020, when I started experiencing a similar environment, I then went and registered the company, The Ladder Back Down Limited in the UK. Now, I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised, that the name hadn't been taken, The Ladder Back Down. I was pleasantly surprised that the name hadn't been taken, because I had no doubts in my mind that I wanted to start an initiative whereby Black people would be inspired to remember to look back to where we were coming from and to stop cutting ourselves at the knees, but instead to send that ladder of opportunity and knowledge and skills and wisdom and everything back down to those coming behind us. So I registered the company in January 2020. And the aim was largely to offer interview skills vouchers to Black humans, and to also offer training to Forex training. So that's Forex trading training to our young Black youth gangs. I wanted to find a means of offering that training for free to Black youth gangs in the UK at least, and then to try and set up an annual competition between gangs, so that instead of fighting one another on the streets, they would compete against one another in Forex trading. At the time, I tried to approach gangs, charities, and youth violence charities, and most of them weren't interested, because the question was asked frequently, so what is in it for us? You know, so if you're saying that you're offering all of this for free, then what is in it for us? And the one thing that I've always been clear about in my mind is that the Ladder Back Down would be free to our members at the point of use. I've always been clear about that. And so for those of us in the Ladder Back Down WhatsApp community, I just want to assure us, because I remember when we started the call for volunteers for the redevelopment of the website in April, we had over 400 members of our community, of the WhatsApp community, register for that, for the volunteering opportunities. And I was told that we had so many because some people believed that it was an opportunity that wouldn't be repeated, that we may decide to start charging. Whereas I've said, and I'll say again tonight, that the Ladder Back Down is a self-funded organization, social enterprise, and it will never become an entity where we charge our members for the services that we offer. So that is a commitment that I'm making and reiterating again as the founder. We won't be charging our members. We don't know where we're going to evolve to next, but we do know that any funding will not come from our members. So that's how we started. How is it going today? Well, the WhatsApp community, as at this evening, has got 2,514 members. So in our WhatsApp community, we've got 2,514 members. Our YouTube channel has got 1,130 members. The WhatsApp community started on the 28th of December, 2022, and then we had to take a 3-month course following a bereavement. And I'll talk about the bereavement of my mom in about 10 minutes. And we then resumed in March. On April the 20th, we had 500 members in that community. And then from the 20th till the end of June, we'd suddenly grown to 2,000 members. And it's all because of anyone here today who's a member of that community that's been spreading the word, because I haven't done a thing. I haven't posted out flyers. Yes, we have promoted our community whenever we've had workshops, but it's all because of each and every one of you. Our YouTube channel is followed by 1,130 subscribers. Again, it's all because of you here tonight. We had 132 new subscribers last month. We had 2,891 total views, and we had 48.6K minutes watched. Again, all because of you. So thank you to anyone here who belongs to our WhatsApp community. We do appreciate you, and we are committed to you. We are deeply committed to you, because without you, there wouldn't be this community. And what we're hoping is that for any support, any inspiration that you receive within the group, that you send the ladder back down to those around you as well. That's so important to us. And we've seen it within the different sub-focus groups within the Ladder Back Down WhatsApp community. We have seen some individuals volunteer to deliver workshops. They just come along and say, I'd like to deliver a workshop. We've seen instances where someone will say, I've got an interview. Please, I need assistance to understand what I need to do to prepare. And loads of people will jump in. And that is indeed the attitude that we're trying to spread globally amongst Black humans, to help ourselves, to raise ourselves, rather than to cut ourselves off at the knees. Sending the ladder back down to ourselves, one by one, because I'm not successful. I will not deem myself as a success until every single member of that community is successful. Because no man is an island. No human being is an island. No human being is self-made. No human being is self-made. There must have been at least one person that has contributed to your success. If I'm in a job where I'm, well paid and all of that, there must have been someone that actually interviewed me and decided to hire me. So no one is self-made. So your community is growing on a daily basis. We have about 100 people a week joining us. That's how it's going. Where are we going to? Well, first thing, I've put the second bullet point here, but I'll put it, I'll move that to the top. We can't go anywhere without each and every one of you. If you're a member of the community, we're not going anywhere without you. Because the ladder back down is about people. It's about Black humans. and we're taking the ladder back down to nations. We are limited by the WhatsApp community app in that only accepts 5,000 members. But even with the 5,000 members, it's not, WhatsApp isn't currently adequate for our needs going forward. We will be considering where we're moving to next, what platform we're moving to next, unless WhatsApp actually changes and builds upon the app pretty soon. But we are taking the ladder back down to nations, regardless of the limitations of the WhatsApp platform or app. We want to make it a global community, a global movement, where people actually talk about sending the ladder back down and understanding what that means. Where in our nations, we don't see politicians taking suitcases of money and burying them in the ground or in the corner of their room, whilst their fellow human beings, fellow citizens, can't even afford a meal a day. We'd like to inspire unity as a race, because if we were united, we wouldn't be disrespected. We wouldn't be disrespected in the diaspora that we're in now. We wouldn't be disrespected. We would be respected because we are respectable. In the US, they say that Black humans, and I don't want to claim Nigerians, but they do say that Black humans or Nigerians, they're the ones that go to university the most in the US. We need to have recognized global leaders amongst ourselves from the ladder back down community. We need to inspire unity as a race. We need to inspire sound governance in our nations so that we become a globally recognized force, united force. And we want to start that by sending the ladder back down amongst ourselves, cheering one another on, regaining global respect as a race. Before I ask for questions, I mentioned my mum. Now, my mum was an amazing woman who did everything in her power to empower others. She didn't care for herself. She served others. She lived a life of service. And she taught all of her children to work hard and serve. She taught all of us to work hard and to serve, to be humble. My mom sacrificed her career and sacrificed everything for all of her children, including me. And she was just amazing. Now, I said that I had a bereavement at the beginning of this year, and we're actually staying in my mom's house currently because our house is being renovated. Now, my mom passed away on January the 15th this year, but she was passionate about the ladder back down. And I used to ring her every single day and at 6 o'clock on the dot. And, you know, and I just tell her about my day. I'd tell her about my workplace. I remember times when, you know, when I had issues at work in 2013 and then in 2021 again. Well, in 2013, it was her and my dad. They would literally just fast and pray every single day. They would hold their hands together at 3 o'clock and just pray for me. And it took 5 years for that test to be over before someone would hire me again, before someone trusted me, despite me never losing my integrity in the first case. It took 5 years, but my mom really stood in the gap for me. And then in 2021 again, she would call me, she would bless me. But anyway, she was an amazing woman. She passed away, unfortunately, before she could see the success of the Ladder Back Down. And that's one of my sole regrets, really, that my mom didn't live to see this, because she would have just been thrilled to bits. Because every Saturday, whenever I used to deliver workshops for the Ladder Back Down, the next thing I do, as soon as I finished, as soon as I dropped the phone, would be to ring my mom or to come over to see her. So that has been a source of inspiration for me. Yes, sadness, but inspiration as well for me, that my mom is no longer here with me to actually cheer me on as my greatest cheerleader. My husband is my greatest cheerleader, but my mom was also my greatest cheerleader. And she made the most amazing food for us. Now, in 2 minutes' time, the reason I made sure that this course, this workshop was stretched to 12 midnight is that in 2 minutes' time, it's going to be, or in a minute's time, it's going to be my birthday. Now, my mom would have sent me my first message on my birthday. And she, you know, and she would have prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And then she would have come to our house to pray for me in a cab, and then let the cab wait outside. And she would have, you know, she would have just, you know, waited, prayed for me, and then she would have gone off home, you know, toddled back off home again. So, yeah, that's why I've done this workshop now, as in to last till now, because this is my first birthday without my mom, you know, being around to pray for me. Now, one of the things that I'd like to do is that Zainab, and what was the name of the second lady that logged in earlier, that logged in first from Nigeria, please? What were the two names? Zainab, and thank you so much, Zainab. Who was the second lady that logged in with you from Nigeria at the time? There was Zainab and another person. Thank you, everyone, but I'm trying to remember the name of the second person who may have left. If they've left, then what I will do is that I'd like Zainab to just contact me, because my mom would have given me a voucher for my present, for my birthday, if she'd been around today. But since she won't be around today, since she's not around today, and she won't be around ever again, actually, then, you know, I'd like to give Zainab, you know, that voucher that she would have given to me. So if you wouldn't mind just sending me a private DM on WhatsApp, I'll try and make sure that that gets to you. She would have given me a little voucher, but I'll just, you know, get that across to you once we finish this workshop, or actually tomorrow morning, but just send me a private message. Thank you. And we've got our amazing Dr. Esther Edun on the phone. Have you got some news to break to me, considering our conversation of this evening? Have you got some news? Oh, you know what I'm talking about, yes? Yes?
Oh my God. Yes, I've got some news to break to you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for tonight.
You are welcome.
Seeing that
Okay.
Mommy is not here, it's just so coincidental. The Ladder Back Down group, Back Down group, they think about wishing you your birthday at 12 a.m. dot. And we came up with something. Thank you to Abby. I don't know if Abby is on this call. She's messaged me and said, tomorrow is Auntie Bukun's birthday. What can we do? And I was like, oh my God, what can we do that will not Anybody, anything? And then here we go.
Thank you.
Everybody see the screen.
Yes, thank you.
Thank the Lord for a treasure like you. You've been there for me when
Thank you.
you're my only friend. So what's it true? You were by my side when I acted like a fool. One of a kind, beautiful bride. Strong on the bond and the water molecule. I'm praying for
Thank
you.
you.
A dance for many days. I won't forget you.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank
birthday
you
to
so much.
Ibukwe Mandela Adebayo. I pray that the Lord keep you, shield you, and make his face to shine upon you. And I pray that the glory of this new year will be greater than the glory of the previous year combined together in the name of Jesus. God bless you.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ibukwe, thank you for coming into my life. I thank God every day for social media because that was how we met. And I bless God because you have influenced me so much. I now have empathy. I think of the other person. I think of what they're experiencing before Margaret Thatcher them, Thank you. I thank God for the day you were born. I ask that you continue to bless and keep you in Jesus' name. Happy birthday. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Amen.
My name is Tayo, and I want to say thank you so much for Ladder Back Down. Thank you for all that you do. You're very much appreciated. I pray that God blesses you today and always, and that you will live long to reap the good fruits of your labor in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. You're very much appreciated, and I hope that you enjoy your day today and be blessed. Bye.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your support and your platform that you've created to help Black individuals like myself. You're greatly appreciated. Higher heights and happy birthday, Mark. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you so much.
And I want to wish Mrs. Ibukwe Adebayo Emmanuel happy birthday. I want to say thank you to her for all she does for the Black community. Thank you for the Ladder Back Down initiative. Her humility is second to none. I've had to communicate with her directly on the ongoing Ladder Back project. I want to say thank you for all our words of encouragement all the time, telling us that we're not a failure, that if she can, that we also can. That rings bell in my head all the time. I want to say in this new year of yours that God will bless you, God will continue to increase you, God will continue to be with you and always in Jesus' name. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Ibukwe Emmanuel Adebayo. God bless you. We love you. We thank you. We appreciate you for all you have been doing for us on the Ladder Back Down group. The Lord will be with you and your family. Cheers to the new year.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, dear Ibukwe. It's Abby Omalulu. Thank you so much for all you've done for us. Thank you for all you've done for me. Thank you for introducing myself and so many others to information security. Thank you for all the encouragement, all the words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing your knowledge so generously. Thank you. God bless you. Enjoy your day, Ibukwe. Bye.
Has passed in your life, making you even wiser and stronger. Let your age not age your spirit. Happy birthday.
Ibukwe, happy birthday. And I want to say thank you for everything that you are doing for the Black community. I want to thank you for your tenacity, for your love, and for your care. I remember that the first personal training I had in project management was with you. That was like years, almost 17 years ago. And that was actually what launched me into, sort of the IT world, even though at the time I didn't really get it, but that was the eye opener for me, letting me know that there is something more out there other than care jobs, customer service, and all those things. And I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to you, and I ask that God will bless you. I ask that You will live a healthy life. You will live every day in strength, in health, and in vitality of mind, of spirit, and of soul. I ask that everything that you have stolen, every of your labor will not be in vain. God will reward you. Everything that you have stolen, you will get it. The multiple, not just you, your children and generation, will give all the kindness that you have stolen. They will consistently trigger a harvest of favor for you and for your children in the name of Jesus. Thank you so much. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really beautiful. I really appreciate you all, thank you. I just didn't want to burst into tears on my, into my birthday, but that's exactly what you've let me do. So you know what you owe me now. Yeah, you know exactly what you owe me. So I'll increase my prayers now for that, and it will happen. Because yeah, I didn't want to cry on my mom's or on my birthday at all, and you ended up just yeah, messing that up for me. So yep, we'll see. You and me, we'll see. Yeah, okay. But thank you to everyone.
Say thank you so much to Kayode for putting this together, all the videos together for us in less than 2 hours, upon all the things he had to do today. He delivered.
Yes.
He delivered it. Thank you so much, Kayode. If you
get wow. Yeah. I mean, I must say that Kayode has been a real blessing to the Ladder Back Down and to me and my family as well. He's always been amazing from the day that I butted into his conversation on Twitter uninvited. I always knew that there was something special about you. And one of the things that I like, which is one of the reasons that I emphasize time and time again, that we should not discuss anything religious on the Ladder Back Down platform, is that Kayode is an ardent and strong believer, a Muslim believer. And I respect that. I respect the fact that whatever faith you practice it well. You practice it strong, that you're not lukewarm. And if you choose to not practice any faith, then I respect your right to not practice any faith, which is why I discuss, which is why I emphasize rather, that we shouldn't put anything religious within the community. But I would say that Mr. Kayode Lateef is one of a kind. So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being a blessing to the Ladder Back Down. And thank you, Dr. Esther Edun as well. You've been amazing, because I must say that, I noticed that you were quite miffed and confused about the misunderstanding and the angst that you were getting when you were sending emails or sending WhatsApp messages out to people saying that you were inviting them to join the project support officers in the volunteering group, whereas nobody expected to actually see a professor, a doctor, sending them messages. So they kept thinking you were a scammer, and yet you've really worked so hard. I mean, I can't praise you enough. I can't praise all the volunteers enough, but I see you working through the night, sometimes very early in the morning, sending messages at 4 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that, when I'm happily, sleeping away in my bed, working so hard. So thank you to you as well, Dr. Esther. Thank you to every single person here that is a member of our community. And we really look forward to continuing to positively affect your lives. I pray every day that I won't meet anyone whom I will negatively influence their lives. If I'm going to ever negatively influence you or do something that will hurt you, then I always pray that I never meet you at all. I'd rather that I don't meet you than that I don't influence you positively or affect you positively. So thank you to everyone. And I'd like to ask us, please, if we have any questions on what we've shared tonight, please. Any questions? Any questions? And so we can all unmute ourselves. And what I'll do is that I'll make sure that I've got the right screen shared here. Any questions? Any questions on what we've, let me just make sure that we can actually unmute ourselves so that, yeah, that's better. Any questions, please, on what we've heard tonight regarding, you know, just believing in yourself and maintaining that belief in yourself against the odds that you're not a failure? Any questions, any comments, please?
Hi, I have a question. Is that
Yes,
okay?
please. Yes, please, definitely.
My name is Bash. I can only thank you for this. I think I am in this team, in this meeting coincidentally, and thanks to my cousin that actually sent me the link. I don't know if I'm the only person knowing you for the first time. Happy birthday, Dr. Ibukun.
No, I'm not doctor.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
Ibukun. No. That's Dr. Esther. That is
Dr.
doctor.
Esther.
Yeah, I'm Ibukun. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
Ibukun Luapo. Thank you, my love.
My question is it okay to link you up on LinkedIn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
So
yeah.
I believe your name, I've looked at it on LinkedIn immediately. So
Yes.
I'll chat up with you on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please do so. I mean, but again, please, you know, I mean, before anyone here thinks that it might not be possible to link up with me, that I might reject your request or something, please remember that one phrase that I came up with in 2015, that we're all dust and oxygen. So don't look at me as someone that, oh God, you know, I mean, is it possible, or will she respond to me or anything? I'm just dust and oxygen, just like each and every one of us here is. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn or on any social media account that you want to, please. Okay. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, dust and oxygen. So important that you remember that, for me at least. Thank you. Yeah, please, Christy. You're welcome, my love. Thank you. Christy.
Hi, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, yeah, happy birthday once again, and I wish you many more years to come.
Thank you.
Like the previous speaker just said, he was here by on a coincidence. So I actually did not join on time because I didn't really see the message on time where I saw it. But I would like to ask, how do I join the WhatsApp community?
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries at all. Is Mr. Cowdy still here, please, to kindly help us post the link?
Yes, I'm still here. I'll post it now.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so you can get the link from no, you're not the only one. You're definitely not the only one. I think some people registered externally.
All right. And I've actually booked a mentor meeting with you one-on-one for Friday, I guess.
That's fine, no problem at all. Please, go ahead and and we'll speak at the time, definitely.
All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome, thank you. And Olabisi, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry for talking to myself. I didn't know I was unmuted. Happy birthday once again.
Thank
and
you.
I'm happy that we share the same month and a few days.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 28th. You remember?
Yes. Oh yes.
That is right. So in relation to emotional intelligence, how friendly do we get with our work colleagues? That's one. Another one is when we're dealing with ourselves as colored people,
as Black people,
thank you. We tend to shirk away from ourselves somehow, particularly because some of us have been hurt in the past and some of us are suspicious of another person, of the other person. How do you deal with that, with this emotional intelligence?
Yeah, so we actually do a full session on emotional intelligence, but that's number one. But number two, so let's first of all take the first question: how do we deal with our work colleagues? I deal personally with my work colleagues as I would treat anyone else. Until you give me cause to not trust you, I trust you. And I think one of the issues that we don't recognize is that we need to actually take each human being as an individual. And that would link into, so I'll answer the second question now, that, that why do we treat ourselves, once we've been hurt by one Black person, we treat all Black people the same. But I would ask us the question, well, if you say that you don't trust your fellow Black human because you've been hurt by one previously, have you never been hurt by a person of another race? And I'm not looking for answers here, so please don't turn around and start saying, well, this other person hurt me from another race or whatever. The fact that I'm trying to bring out is that each human being has a choice in how they behave, regardless of their race. So you could be treated nicely by a Black person, by a white person, or by an Asian person. And you could also be treated negatively by someone of any of those races. And we don't say that if my Asian boss in the workplace, for example, treats me badly, I'm not going to work with another Asian person or be friends with another Asian person again, do we? So why should we say that if a fellow Black human treats us badly, that we're then going to shut ourselves off from all Black people? If you get me as a colleague in your workplace as a Black person, let's say you meet me in the workplace, funnily enough, people say that when they first see my face, they think, oh my goodness, what sort of woman is this person going to be? What sort of manager, what sort of leader is this person going to be? But when they get to work with me, and that's the same everywhere, not only in the workplace, but whenever they get to, when they get to know me, they then suddenly say, well, I didn't know that you play so much and that you joke around so much. So I wouldn't like to be judged by the way another Black person has treated you, just as I wouldn't judge you by the way I've been treated by two Black humans in the workplace. So I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I'll make it quite clear now that that incident that happened in 2013 was actually at the hands of a fellow Nigerian. So we don't think it was another race. It was at the hands of a fellow Nigerian. But what that has now inspired me to do is to set up the ladder back down. His treatment of me has inspired me. It has inspired me rather to set up the ladder back down to show us how to treat one another, rather than for me to now say that I never want to work with a Black Nigerian again. I never want to work with a Black man again. So we can't afford to say, we can't afford to tar everyone with the same brush. We treat people as individuals. And that then goes back to the first question you asked about how we relate to our work colleagues at work. Some people will say, keep everything absolutely professional. But wherever I've worked, wherever I've led, should I say, I've made sure that the team members treat me the same way that they treat one another. We play together, we laugh together. In some instances, I've needed to make people redundant, but we treat each other with equal respect. The same way they talk to me, they talk to the cleaner. The same way they talk to me, they talk to the security guard with equal respect. Yes, be wise with your work colleagues. Understand the boundaries. Some may not want to be joked with, others may. When you move into a new workplace, you first of all try to understand the people that you're working with, but treat them as individuals, because some may want to joke around, And some may simply want to keep themselves to themselves, and we respect those boundaries. So I hope I've answered your question.
Very well, so thank you.
Thank you so much. And Christy, you have your hands up. Christy, would you like to unmute yourself?
Oh, sorry, I think I didn't take it down then when I put it up. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's all right. You're welcome. Who
Yeah,
else would like to ask a question? If you'd like to ask a question, you can unmute yourself.